Hello everyone and welcome to the L.T.L Tutoring Central video series. My name is Ron and you can see that the sun is shining today and it's very hot and humid here. So I have my L.T.L Tutoring Central t-shirt on. However, today we're talking about complex sentences. We've talked in videos recently about simple sentences and then compound sentences. Today we're going into the complex sentences and then we'll go on to the compound complex sentences. So you'll have 4 different kinds of sentences by structure. And you'll want to use those in your writing and you'll want to intermingle them so that your writing is more interesting, it's easier to read, it's easier to understand. It's also more of a pleasure to write when you use a variety of skills, different vocabulary, different sentence structures, different punctuation styles. Those kinds of things just make it a lot more interesting and a lot more fun. It's more exciting to try different things. Now, you should probably try or experiment on your rough drafts or on writing a blog or something that's not too important. If you're writing for a university course, you want to make sure that you stay with what you're comfortable, the style that you're comfortable writing in. As you experiment, you can start to include some of these new ideas into your more formal writing the more you learn. So let's get started on complex sentences, what they are, and a few examples to help you use them in your own writing. What is a complex sentence? Well, it doesn't really mean it's difficult. The word complex is just identifying the kind of sentence by structure. In other words, what kinds of structures are contained within the sentence. So for a complex sentence, you'd have one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. If you don't remember independent and dependent clauses, look at some of the other English videos I have up on YouTube on sentence structure and writing, because that explains them. But basically, an independent clause is one that can stand alone. In other words, it's a sentence. And basically, you could think of it as a simple sentence. And dependent clauses, they cannot stand alone. That would not be a complete sentence. So they either need to be connected to a main sentence or an independent clause, or you need to add something to them to make them independent, one or the other. The other point about complex sentences is that you start to look more at the order of importance. So you arrange your clauses so that you get the most impact. And often that means you want to put your strongest point at the end. So not all the time, but often you're going to start with your dependent clause and then end with your independent clause, because that packs a bigger punch for your sentences. However, don't forget, I always keep mentioning variety. So it's good sometimes to mix it up. And it's not always necessary to have the strongest or most important point at the end, because maybe they're fairly equal. But generally speaking, independent clauses are stronger than dependent clauses. All right, let's have a look at a couple of examples of complex sentences. Number one, I have, before he could even reply, the policeman arrested him. Now, I've put the dependent clauses in blue. So before he could even reply. Now think about that. That couldn't be standing on its own. That's not a complete sentence because of the word before. It means we're waiting for more information. The policeman arrested him. Now that is a complete sentence. So there's the independent clause, the policeman arrested him, and the dependent is before he could even reply. So that forms a complex sentence. The second example, the administrator who organized the event was rewarded with a standing ovation. So now you have the dependent clause in the middle of this complex sentence. So you have the administrator was rewarded with a standing ovation. That's in green. That's your independent clause. And your dependent clause is who organized the event. That simply modifies the administrator. That's just giving you more information about the subject of this complex sentence. Let's have a look at a couple more examples just to help you along to see how complex sentences are constructed. So number one, Sabrina was astounded after learning that she had won a new car. So the independent clause is still in green. Sabrina was astounded. That's a complete sentence by itself. You have a subject, Sabrina. You have a predicate, was astounded, and it completes the thought. We don't have any subordinating words, so we're not waiting for anything else. Now, we might want to know why she was astounded, but that could be another sentence. The blue part, after learning that she had won a new car, that can't stand by itself, can it? If you walked up to someone and said, after learning that she had won a new car, your listener would be waiting. What happened after learning that she had won a new car? So that is a dependent clause, but joined together, it creates a complex sentence. Number two, when my grandparents visited last year, I took them to visit the museum and the local art gallery. So the beginning is in blue because that is the dependent clause. In other words, it depends on a main clause. When my grandparents visited last year, that sets us up for a sentence, but it isn't a complete sentence by itself. What happened when my grandparents visited last year? Your listener or your reader is waiting for further information. And that's the green part. I took them to visit the museum and the local art gallery. There's your independent clause. You could write that as a sentence without the beginning, without when my parents visited last year, and it would make sense by itself. Or think of it this way. If you walked up and said to someone, I took them to visit the museum and the local art gallery, it makes sense. Of course, again, sometimes people get confused because they think, well, yeah, but we don't know what, who is the them? Well, probably you had a sentence before, or you will have sentences after, or the speaker will ask if it's in a dialogue form. But you do have a complete sentence here, even though you may want more information throughout the paragraph or the article. Now, just a quick reminder, mix it up, mix it up, mix it up, mix it up. You want to mix up your sentences. It's not a bad thing. You want to use combinations throughout your article, especially if you're writing something longer. So you want to use some simple sentences, some compound sentences, some complex sentences. And coming next, we're going to talk about compound complex sentences. You can probably guess what that's going to look like. So it'd be interesting. You could put a comment on the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment below and tell me what do you think a compound complex sentence is, and then you can find out next week when I make the new video talking about compound complex sentences. But when you're writing, use a variety, mix them up so that your writing has better flow. It's easier to read, it's easier to understand, and it's also a lot more fun writing when you get to use different kinds of sentences. So there we go. That's the complex sentence. And once you've mastered the simple sentences and the compound sentences, the complex sentence is not so difficult. You just have to remember that you're using dependent clauses and you have one independent clause within. The names of all these sentences don't really make that much difference once you've learned them. You're just going to use them in your writing, and you're going to mix it up so that you have them throughout, and that just makes your writing much more interesting. Here's the contact information for me. It's L.T.L. Tutoring Central, and the website is www.tutoringcentral.com, and the email is tutoringcentral@hotmail.com. At least that's one of them. And check out the website. There's individual writing programs available. I offer a free information meeting on Zoom or Skype if you're interested in taking some more personalized writing lessons. I also offer reading and math lessons as well. And there are online courses that I have in which you do most of the work on your own. There's a little bit of feedback and you can ask questions, but a lot of it is on your own. It's asynchronous courses. I'll put some links below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the links below for those courses, as well as a link to the website. and a link to the blog. So you'll have lots to look at and lots to listen to. The blog will be about, actually this week it's about compound and complex sentences. I combined it together to put both of the sentences in. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, make a comment below, ask a question, and I can answer it. You can also email me questions too. My name is Ron with L.T.L Tutoring Central, and I will see you next week.